Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the plots that are asked for in the report tutorial for Lab 2. In that tutorial it says that you need to create 4 plots, and for each of the plots you should have evaporation rate on the y-axis and one of the other properties of the molecules on the x-axis. So those properties are molar mass, dipole moment, dielectric, and it also asks for charge on the oxygen, which I'm not including here. Okay, you should include it, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not including it. You should also arrange your data in such a way that it's going to be easy for you to focus just on the alcohols. Okay, so don't put the value for acetone or hexane in between some of the alcohols. You want to have the alcohols all together as a block. That'll make making these plots a lot easier. Okay, so let's look at how we want to make this plot. So one of the typical ways that you would make a plot in Excel would be to select the data, both columns, that you want to put in a plot. So let's just do that. So if I do that, what you see is that rather than having the evaporation rate on the y-axis, it's actually on the x-axis, and the molar mass ends up on the y-axis. So the reason that this happens is Excel, by default, interprets the left column that you select as the x-axis values and the right column that you select as the y-axis values. Okay, so you can go in and you can manually change this if you want to, but an easier way to do it would simply be to change the order in which the columns appear on the spreadsheet. So let me delete this plot and let's move the data around a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just select this data, cut it, and paste it over here. So now I've got molar mass, dipole moment, dielectric, and now I've got my evaporation rate all the way on the right. But now the problem is I can't select those two columns directly, right? They're not next to one another, so it makes it harder to select them. So how do you actually do that? Well, you can select columns that are not next to one another this way. So I'm going to select one of the columns, and then I press down the Control key on the keyboard and I hold it down, and then I select the other column, and I can release the Control key. So that allows me to select two columns that are not next to one another. Then I go up here to Insert, Scatter, and now if you look at this, you can see that I've got evaporation rate data on the y-axis, I've got molar mass data on the x-axis. Okay, so this looks good. I can also change the layout so that it includes the chart title, the axis title for both of the axes, and it has this series legend entry. Okay, we don't actually need that, so we can just go ahead and delete it. You might also see this and say, well, you know, all this data is kind of over to the right. Maybe I should change the limits on this axis. So I'm going to click on it, right click on it, go to Format Axis, and it has Auto here for the minimum of the x-axis. I'm going to choose Fixed and put in a value of 25. Okay, so that moves it over. That looks a lot more centered, looks better. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let me just fill in these titles here. This is going to be evaporation rate, and this one is going to be molar mass. You don't need to worry about the units for evaporation rate since we're not actually measuring evaporation rate directly anyway. Okay, so that chart is evaporation rate versus molar mass. The other charts, you know, they can just be made in exactly the same way. So if I want to make the chart with dipole moment on the x-axis, I select the dipole moment data, press down the Control key, and select evaporation rate data, release Control. Now I've got those two columns selected. I go to Insert, Scatter, and now you can see that I've got evaporation rate on the y-axis, dipole moment on the x-axis. I've got this series thing there, which I don't care about. I can add in the title and, well, the chart title and the axis title for these things. So I'll put in dipole moment and evaporation rate. Okay, delete the series legend. You can put in what you think is a useful title in all of these charts. Each of them should have a title for the chart, and you should label the axes. But I'll leave it up to you to figure out what to put as the title. So anyway, these are two of the charts that you're going to need to make. You're going to have to do the same again using the dielectric on the x-axis and also the charge on the oxygen on the x-axis. But given these two examples, hopefully now you have a good idea how to go about this. In any case, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in class next week.